I've been having a really good week, and it's mainly around One Piece, right? It's a really good time when the One Piece anime is amazing and the One Piece manga is on another level. Like, seriously, both mediums are just hitting on another level. I'm curious, how many of you guys watch the One Piece anime? How many of you guys care about it? Do you think these things are canon to the story? Do you think these things matter at all? Or do you just read the manga and the manga solely because you don't like filler? You know, like in-canon filler. That thing scares you. Like, that's not Oda's vision. There's a bunch of people out here trying to copy or, you know, interpret Oda's vision, but they in no way can they understand Oda's vision. Are you one of those people? Because, I mean, I get it, right? Purists, the people that they just want to follow the manga and follow the manga to a T. They don't take any outside Vivid cards, SBSs. It's strictly about the manga. I get that. But I think, personally, that's something you should probably not do, just based off of how vast this world is. One Piece is a vast world that consists of so many moving parts, and if you just focus in on a manga, you miss a lot. But if you're here for the first time and you enjoy One Piece content like this, subscribe and stick around, because there's a lot more One Piece content to come, because we have a lot more story left. I made a video recently about episode 0 that a lot of people, you know, if you weren't caught up back then, you probably would have missed it, because even reading chapters from different sites, some of them don't include episode 0, right? So you're like, what, Shiki? Young Whitebeard? The Ed War? Some people may know of the Ed War, but they don't even know where it came from. Like, where did this information come from? In the Vivid cards, I talked about the best reveals outside of the story, and I think that's some of the most exciting stuff, is finding out information about the One Piece world. That's why 957 was so explosive, because we found out the bounties of some of the greatest pirates, not only in the world, but ever. And information, I think, is key. Even recently, the sources are saying that for the Oden and Roger flashback, right, the Whitebeard versus Roger flashback, they are seeking personal approval from Oda, where they're going to Oda specifically and getting things approved because they want to make it an extension of the story, as they've been doing in Wano and from the beginning of Whole Cake Island. But they really want to hone in on this moment, this shit. But they really want to hone in on this moment to make it as accurate as possible to what Oda envisioned, but probably didn't have the time to do. I wanted to open up with that because I've been seeing people recently not knowing certain things because they just read the manga. I challenge you to please venture out a little bit. Just venture out and try to discover a little bit. Give the anime a chance, especially right now, and we're going into the 950s. If you read the manga, obviously you read the manga if you're watching this. We're getting into the 950s, where you guys know what the 950s consist of. Zoro holding Enma, the warlords being abolished, 957, right? Even after that, a bunch of great things happen. So I think this is the time to just give the anime a shot. But what does that have to do with what what this has to do with what I want to talk about is Momonosuke and Zoro. And I think that's an easy thing. And when I think of the One Piece anime, I think of Zoro because Zoro is a god. He's a deity in the anime. Zoro's an easy character to talk about, right? He's a fan favorite. People love him. There's so many layers to what he could possibly do in the future. It leads everywhere, right? In regards to his story, his strength, even his past could come back around, his lineage. There are a lot of things we don't know. And so there are crazy expectations to find out some of these things. For me, I'm interested in Zoro post Wano, of course, but towards the end of the story. I'm really interested in Zoro and Momonosuke's relationship and where that goes. And guys, I want to apologize for the tangent in the beginning. I really just try to tell you guys exactly how I'm feeling and try to voice things that I'm feeling at the time. Some people may complain about, hey, this isn't what you said it was going to be about. But then some people complain and saying, hey, the videos are getting shorter. We want longer videos. So, Zoro and Momonosuke, I think that relationship is one that people haven't really paid much attention to. And I think some Zoro fans, you understand what that could blossom into. And again, I mentioned things transforming at the beginning of the video, how many ways this could lead, because Oda leaves things very open-ended. So for Momonosuke and Zoro, I think it's important to understand that this path that I see completely depends on how you see these characters separately and the paths they would take post Wano. And I absolutely love this contrast because Momonosuke is not an easy character to talk about because he's not a well-liked character. A lot of people say they don't like Momonosuke because they feel like he's a kid, he's annoying, and some people, they channel the characters on the ship. So his funny rivalry feud with Luffy, some people are like, well, he's annoying on the ship. We don't like how he annoys the other characters. He doesn't add anything. He's a kid. He gets in the way. To an extent, bullshit. It's It's not valid points at all. It's BS because Momonosuke, I think he adds a lot to the crew, and there are a bunch of plot points you can play off of with Momonosuke. And FYI, if you haven't noticed, Momonosuke is a very important character, not only in Wano, but for the end of the story. I admit, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, right? I'm not gonna lie to them. When we first got introduced to Momonosuke, I was like, who is this kid? I don't care about this kid. This kid is annoying. He's a crybaby. He's pompous. He's arrogant. He's entitled. For what? And then we find out that this kid is actually royalty. The way he is somewhat how he was raised, because, you know, now he's the little brother, but he was the older brother, and he was the heir apparent to one of the greatest characters in One Piece, Kozuki Oden. And so, as a kid, having that weight on your shoulders and trying to live up to the expectations of someone like Kozuki Oden, you can't live up to that. There's no possible way. Oden was a man amongst men. We've talked about the things Oden accomplished at Momonosuke's age. And we're like, what? What did he do? Right? And of course, a larger than life personality like that and the pressure on Momonosuke's shoulders leads to some of the character deficiencies that he has, where it's compensating, right? So again, what I like about One Piece, and I'll talk about this more in depth in my Whitebeard video, and I'll show it here, where Oda answered a specific question about characters. He talks about flawed characters, and he's saying people like flawed characters, and that's an absolute fact. We enjoy flawed characters. Some of our favorite characters, they have issues, problems, deep-rooted problems that are not easy to get over, and for us as well, right? We relate to them because, bro, I'm f***ed up. Their life is difficult. And so for people, you relate to going through the struggle and trying to overcome them in your own way. I don't recommend the Doflamingo route, but it happens. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen often where you leave from the top of the mountain, you come down to be with the people, then they stone you, then they shoot out your eye, and then, you know, you unlock Conqueror's Haki, and then you set out to destroy the world. That doesn't happen often. That's the special exception, but I'm saying that's the extreme example. One Piece is a story of extremes. I talked about One Piece being a story of irony, but One Piece is also a story of extremes. And we appreciate that because it leads to brilliant irony. But I say all that to say, the Momonosuke is a severely flawed kid. And again, he is a kid that's time traveled, that has the expectations of a shogun, expected to lead people without having that experience, without necessarily having your father to lead you there. So what's next for him? We saw some character growth from Dressrosa to Zou to Wano especially. And I think that's the great thing about Luffy. He's so simplistic that in that moment, Luffy should have gone after Momonosuke. Absolutely, should have geared forth and saved Momonosuke. Luffy, again, he's so much like his grandfather in this way, where for Garp, throwing Luffy into the jungle, logically, you're like, what the hell is wrong with you, old man? That's a kid. And you want him to fend for himself? What if he dies? And then this goes back to Hunter x Hunter, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a certain dad where his son is hurt, and he doesn't even look after his son. He's like, I believe he's gonna pull through. And that's how Luffy looked at Momonosuke, where it's like, this is a moment in which you can overcome. For some people, I was really proud of Momo. We at least tried to defeat Kanjuro, tried to get out of this situation, did not depend on anyone, understanding that sometimes you gotta lace them up and do it yourself, brother. And that's what Momonosuke did. The future of Momonosuke's character is solely dependent on whether or not he leaves Wano. If he stays in Wano, I think mostly he's gonna be static till the end, and then possibly an epilogue. If he goes with the Straw Hats, there's a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for some amazing things with Momonosuke. Where I'm leaning, Momonosuke absolutely goes with the Straw Hats, and he becomes a cabin boy / mentee of Zoro's. The reason why I think Momonosuke goes is because Momonosuke's existence is super important for the Dawn, the end of the story. And the fact that he can control Zou, that's open. What's the purpose of that? Why did Oda show us that? Oda told us Oden had Conqueror's Haki, the importance of the Kozuki, they made the poneglyphs. We know that Zou was banished to walk for eternity. How can Momonosuke control this animal, this island? Is he an ancient weapon? No, we've never heard of an ancient weapon that can do something like that, but it's eerily similar to what Shirahoshi does. How can this kid remain in Wano? Well, Brago, Shirahoshi stayed in Fishman Island, yes, but in Fishman Island, we still had an entire journey to get through. Wano is towards the end of the journey. For Momonosuke, I think growth has to happen for his character in regards to not only as a leader, but as a combatant. And that's where Zoro comes in. And something that's really important is how much Momonosuke looks up to and respects Zoro. When Momonosuke found out Zoro had Enma, there were no qualms, no issues, because you understand the type of man that Zoro is. And Zoro was even giving Momonosuke tips on and training him, I guess raising him. I could see Momonosuke being a great mentee to Zoro, and Zoro being a great mentor. Something that I've always been fond of is Zoro's and Chopper's relationship. And for Momonosuke, I think the qualities that Zoro exude, those are the things he needs improvement in. Do you remember the Foxy arc? When Chopper was crying and just, in a way, he was complaining about what happened. Saying, no, this isn't fair. Zoro said, shut up. As a pirate, this is what you signed up for. Sit down and watch it take place. Chopper said, okay. Moments like that from Zoro, I can see him raising Momonosuke in a way in which we can start to see him following the path of his father. So then Momonosuke is on a ship, Zoro's on a ship. They develop this relationship, this bond of somewhat a teacher or a mentor and a mentee. And then, of course, they find the One Piece. Momonosuke goes back to Wano. Zoro goes to a mountain somewhere, has his own mansion by himself or with whomever, and is training until the end of time, trying to find someone that can compete with him. Zoro, of course, still has Enma, Wado, and we expect for it to be B.D.A. Momonosuke has Ame no Habikiri. At this moment, he hasn't accepted it because he feels like he's not worthy. Obviously, post-Zoro, post the Straw Hats, he will have the sufficient training to be able to control the sword and be reasonable at it. In the epilogue, if Oda decides to go this route, something that I would love to happen is that Momonosuke seeks out Zoro again after maybe a decade or even 2 and says, I've returned to challenge you for Enma. Because here's the thing, Momonosuke is the heir apparent. He is going to be the shogun of Wano. Of course he respects his mentor, and he knows Zoro is worthy of having that sword. But once Zoro is the world's greatest swordsman, because that is inevitable, down the line, will Zoro suffer from the same things that Mihawk suffers from? Where Mihawk is at a point that he has no worthy challengers? In a River Card, again, I talked about information outside of the story. It said that Mihawk was waiting for someone stronger than Shanks to challenge him, right? Which could mean so many different things. Could mean Mihawk is stronger than Shanks. I think it tells a sad tale of Mihawk at this point is a wanderer and is desperately searching for purpose. And for him being the world's greatest swordsman with no one to challenge him, it's a really sad story to me. It's one of great fanfare, but when you dig a bit deeper, it's one of pain and loss. And my guy Dritz, he went deep into this Mihawk topic about how Mihawk is affected by Shanks losing his arm and how that impacted Mihawk to the point that the person that he challenged, they had amazing duels that even Whitebeard talked about. That person was no more because he had one arm. Our headcanon about Shanks is that after he lost his arm, he had to develop a fighting style that wasn't the way of a pure swordsman and went outside of the norms that Mihawk expected. And again, for Mihawk as well, from his perspective, you lost your arm, you're not as strong as you used to be, as a swordsman at least, so I don't respect that. And again, Mihawk's the world's greatest swordsman, that's indisputable. So if you say Mihawk's stronger than Shanks, I'm not mad at that. It is what it is. But past that, will Zoro experience this? Will Zoro get to a point that he's the strongest and it's like, all right, what's next? The most worthy candidate that I see could challenge Zoro is Momonosuke. And what better stakes than Zoro putting up Enma and Momonosuke putting up Ame no Habikiri? Because for Momonosuke, I think he's going to become extremely powerful. And then he's going to say, I want to go back and reclaim my father's sword from my mentor and establish myself as the greatest swordsman in the world. Because how can you not? You're following around this man that is trying to achieve this feat, and now he has your father's sword. I think it would be a great epilogue story if it shows Momonosuke's journey to become the greatest, and the final challenge is to reclaim Enma by challenging Zoro, who is your mentor. That would be amazing. And again, I'm not sure if Oda goes the two-piece route. Oda joked about that, by the way. He joked about that recently, two-piece. If Oda does go that route, I see that as a plot line that's been set up, and it's already set up based on their relationship, and I think their character trajectory. I could go on for so much longer about why I think Zoro and Momonosuke should have some reunion, and Zoro's purpose towards the end of Wano, towards the end of the story, or Momonosuke's as well. Momonosuke having powers similar to an ancient weapon should not be ignored at all, but we'll leave it here. Give me your thoughts. I've rambled on a bit too long now, but how do you guys feel about all that? How do you feel about Momonosuke? What are your expectations for Zoro and his character post Wano, post One Piece? And would you like to see Momonosuke versus Zoro in the future where the stakes are Enma, Ame no Habikiri? Because I think the sword that stays with Zoro and is buried with Zoro is obviously Wado Ichimonji, because I presume Zoro is actually a Shimotsuki. We talked about it, where in Ringo, the Shimotsuki, they're buried with their swords, and the swords, they've been with them their entire lives, and so that's their tombstone. And I think Zoro at the end of it will be buried in Wano, right? So Momonosuke will lay the final sword, Wado Ichimonji, at the end in Wano, the final resting place of the world's greatest swordsman, Shimotsuki Zoro. Guys, give me your thoughts, man. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, man. Just Zoro achieving his goal and then becoming the world's greatest. Him and Momonosuke's relationship. Gonna be amazing again. I told you, we speculate so much in this story, but I love it. Give me your thoughts, like that video if you did, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce, follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons, I appreciate you guys so much. Guys, be sure to like and subscribe, and I shall catch you in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite it.